Hello. You went to mute. It's showing me that your microphone's on.
Weird. I didn't even touch my computer. I'm sorry, guys. So, anyways, so welcome to our debate group on
what the? Oh my God, what the heck?
It did it again. You're back on mute.
Every time it says that Kara muted her.
me, Kara.
What's going on?
Can I go? Okay. Someone, okay. Yeah. So, where was I? Okay, so we will discuss the pros and cons of functional behavioral assessments and experimental functional analysis. The two techniques are both fundamentally rooted in applied behavior analysis and scientifically supported, yet many behavior analysts choose functional behavior assessments while a few still choose what is it called? Experimental functional analysis. Oh my God. Okay, so we will give the floor to Kristen and Harley, who are in favor of functional behavior assessments.
Okie doke. Thank you. So
I didn't hear anything of what LaTanya was just saying. I have no idea why, so I missed the whole thing.
Uh-oh. Did you
Well, you muted me, so
well, it was already muted, and so I was like trying to like unmute it and like trying to make it cooperate, and it would not play any sound.
Okay, well, you didn't miss much. I pretty much stuttered, and then I stuttered some more, and then I laughed a little bit, and then I was like, EFA, what's that? So
So am I supposed to say the one defined functional behavior assessment? Because if you scroll down on the outline, it says advantages of descriptive functional behavior assessment, Stater, Prover, Harley, and Kristen. And that's where I thought I was supposed to begin. I'm just confused.
Well, for the introduction, I didn't want to say too much because I didn't want to take away from, even though it has that I'm supposed to say all of that, I didn't want to take away from the points that you guys were trying to make or later points that we want to present. So I just kind of kept it short and just like, hey, this is what we're going to discuss. This is what the two techniques are. And yeah, I just figured that would be better.
Okay. Well, then, do you guys think I should start off with some of this stuff in the intro and then go into the other points? Okay. All right. Well, so functional behavior assessment is strategies that are used to either indirectly or directly observe behaviors that in order to figure out the function of what the behavior is. There are, like I said, indirect methods, which it may include parent surveys, and there are also direct methods. And the direct methods are like direct observation, where you might use a ABC data sheet or an antecedent behavior consequence data sheet. I've also read up and saw that you can use scatter plots, and there's a few different other assessments that you can use during a functional behavior assessment, but these have many advantages. So the first one I would say is that they're easily taught. So teachers in schools, which is the whole reason of the debate, teachers in schools are, taught to use a method that's similar to what an ABC sheet would look like. So it would be easy to train the teacher on something similar. So the teacher dictates how the behaviors would be defined. They would be serving as the therapist while they were taking the data. And so then the teacher would be able to determine what the function is of the behavior. I'm assuming that she would also have a little bit of help from an outside consultant. Assessments are also less time consuming compared to functional analysis. There's a study by Durand and Crimmins that states that they require little effort and little time for the consultant and the client, and they assist this consultant in identifying time periods to collect data. Oh, this is not what I thought it was. Sorry, guys. What's this? That's not what I thought it was. I have to go down here. Sorry, I have to fix my stuff apparently. So there are studies that show that certain forms of direct assessment can be done in as little as 15 minutes, and you would probably want between 3 and 5 sessions so that you can get a steady baseline, see what the behavior looks like typically, and then you would be able to move on from there. Additionally, let's see. Now I'm going to have to scroll back up. Sorry, guys. They are also cost effective. So both indirect and direct methods of functional behavior assessments are cost effective because they don't require a lot of time, which is cost effective because the consultant isn't needed as frequently. And they also don't necessarily require as many resources. They can be done in a natural environment, in a classroom, in a school setting, daycare setting, home setting, whatever the need is. They can be adapted to the client, and for that reason, they don't have as many costs or resource allocations.
Harley, would you like to add before we move on to LaTonya and Cara? I feel so weird as the moderator.
So quick question though, like Kristen, did you touch on most of the bases that were like pros for it? Because
I only did the points under I went to advantages of descriptive functional behavior assessment, which is the second heading. Mm-hmm. And then I scrolled down to advantages of direct assessments, mm-hmm. but I didn't talk about the advantages of the indirect assessments.
Okay, that's where I was trying to keep up at. Then yeah, I can add that part in.
I have a question. Do you want us to hit some few advantages of ours, and then you can kind of have something later on to also add and piggyback, or do you guys want to lay out all of your advantages first? Because I feel like just going back and forth, like it'll,
Well, I feel like after we make all of our advantages, then that's when you come in and you say, I feel like it should be advantages, disadvantages, and then advantages of yours and disadvantages. Because right now we have advantages for one, advantages for the other, and then disadvantages for one and disadvantages for the other. I feel like it would be better.
Yeah. I don't know why, I thought we were going to poke at your disadvantage. Like you just laid out most of your advantages, and I thought we wanted to, after we laid out ours, we would say kind of like end out saying, well, this is why this is better because, and then point out a few disadvantages of yours. Are we labeling our own disadvantages? I don't even know. No. I can't remember like that. We submitted the outline like so long ago.
No, it says attackers of descriptive functional behavior assessment are you and Cara.
So after we just lay out our advantages. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
And then,
sorry, Marley, if you want to go ahead and.
no, that's okay.
With
I
the
did have one
advantages
more
there.
question too, like real quick. I can get into this, but did we want to separate it into like one person is the advantages speaker for one group and then one person is the disadvantages speaker for that group? So like Kristen would have the advantages of our group and I would have the disadvantages of like coming towards you guys' group, and then one of you guys would be the pro for your group and one of you guys would be the con for our group.
That seems easy. Are two people able to talk at one time here?
I think
Or is
that
that
it kind of makes it hard to understand like previously.
wait? So
Like in other Hangout calls, you know how it's been switching back and forth.
two people talking at once. Yes. Okay. So yeah, then I agree, Harley. I think that sounds good.
Okay. We can do that. I can go ahead and give the advantages of indirect assessment though, and then whenever we go just to do, like if you guys want to do another run through at another time or something, we can have it specified, like, you know,
Yeah.
by which groups that we're going to do. But
since we're kind of changing how we're doing it, I kind of want to have it written down so that we can, like the moderator just gives like a gist of what it's about, and then, Kristen goes, yeah, you got it. Okay, yeah. So hang on. One sec. Pen and paper. Okay. Okay. And then obviously I'll type it up and send it to you guys. So the moderator is just gonna give like a brief introduction, and then Chris, moderator. Oh my God, I'm sorry, I can't spell. Brief intro. Then Kristen is gonna come in with the advantages of FBA. And then I think Cara expressed that she wants me to speak first, so I'll do the advantages of EFA.
and then I could do the disadvantages of EFA.
And then I'll attack yours. I mean, and Cara will attack you. Okay, so you can. I'll be writing, but I'm paying attention.
That's fine. Kristen, I don't think you went over the advantages of indirect assessment. Is that correct? Okay, then I can do that real quick and then go ahead and we can swap off. So the advantages of indirect assessment for FAs are that interviews can provide more qualitative information that leads to the discovery of the functions of behavior. So rather than quantitative, where we just have a bunch of number information about things, we actually have in-depth information that can lead to varying antecedents, common antecedents and consequences that can give a better definition and hypothesis for the function of the behavior. And typically this can be done by reviewing student records, and it can give a insight to information that is not provided by direct forms of interviews and assessment. This may include understanding the different patterns of behavior that help design functional assessment. And so it may just give an overview of previous intervention attempts that have failed, as well as academic progress, medical information, and the effectiveness of typical school-based discipline strategies. So whether detention, suspension, these type of interventions have worked previously, and whether the typical function of the behavior responds well to reinforcement-based contingencies versus punishment-based contingencies. So that's what I have for our indirect assessment advantages.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to speak on the advantages of experimental functional analysis. And in EFA, it's pretty much how it's conducted is when you systematically like manipulate the environment to trigger the targeted behavior. And the advantages to that would be, I'm trying to wing it, but the advantages to that would be, okay, it's cost effective. And the reason it's cost effective is because it may not immediately show its effectiveness and price. It's not immediately cost effective, but it has the ability to be in the long run. Oh my God, let me get my words together. And that is because when you can directly manipulate the environment to see exactly the function of the behavior, you're less likely, like you won't have to do more experiments or more analyses in the future because you'll know like right away. So even though it might cost a bit more or take a bit more time, it benefits you in the long run because you don't have to do an indirect assessment after that or anything like that. So that's one advantage to EFAs. Another is, let me find my documents. They are less time consuming and they can be easily taught as well. I know that a lot of teachers will be, they have to identify the function of the behavior in order to get students to comply and things like that. So, it kind of just mimics things that teachers have been taught, like, or just try to withdraw this and see what happens, or maybe you should like ignore the student. So, not give them attention and see what their behavior is like. And then you'll know like, okay, so this is what I can do. So, systematically manipulating the environment, it's, we can get teachers and other professionals on board with that really easily. We can easily teach them to do that in an analytic way. So, and as I said before, they are less time consuming because you have a general hypothesis of the cause of the behavior. And so all it takes is just you going off of that hypothesis and kind of manipulating the environment. So you don't need to send out surveys or questionnaires to parents or teachers to figure it out. It's, just after just watching the behavior, you're like, okay, I think it's this, so now we're going to try and see. So it doesn't take that much time. And you're not waiting on information from other people, like a anecdote or something like that. Let's see. Think that hang on, guys. I think that'd be it. Hang on. Oh, yeah, I mean, duh, like the most obvious thing is that they're accurate. Like we know directly, like, because I don't want to target you guys. I don't want to be like, well, in the FBA it's this, but here, like, it's not time for that yet. Okay, so EFAs are exact. They're exact. They are exact and they are accurate. We know that by manipulating the environment, we know exactly the cause of behavior because we manipulated it. So it's absolutely accurate. There's no, once the EFA is complete, there's no guessing on what the cause of the behavior is. So it's pretty precise. Oh my God, there are like so many like advantages. Sorry, guys. Okay, let's move on. I'm gonna get it together. By the next time, let's just move on.
Okay, so I completely understand where you're coming from. By the way, I'm going to have a whole little outline for myself written out. But yeah, so disadvantages of experimental functional analysis include that these processes are time consuming. There are multiple articles that show that the assessment conditions are divided into multiple parts, which go between tangibles, attention, escape and avoidance, ignoring, and free play, which would be considered control. These parts can last anywhere between 5 to 15 minutes a piece, making assessments anywhere between 25 to 75 minutes per client. At times, it may be deemed necessary for students to repeat some of the assessment conditions, which would then extend the session even longer. So the process is also costly. It is more costly than functional analysis because the observational functional assessment can be more resource intensive than direct functional assessment, but it does afford a little more objective information. I'm not going to include that when I read it. But there is definitely more resource intensity being used, and the analysis can be intrusive for the students or clients. Experimental functional analysis require an experimental environment and usually cannot be conducted in a classroom. So this definitely excludes any areas for them to be conducted by teachers in any other climates. So that also limits the function of behaviors that may differ throughout settings. So in one setting, there may be a function for a tangible, where in another setting, the function of the exact same behavior could be attention. That does leave room for error and a room for guessing on the function between settings. And then they also require different assessment conditions that may not create the same results in the natural setting world. So when you contrive a situation to evoke a behavior, it may not be the exact same situation that would happen in a natural occurring setting. And so in that setting, you could evoke a different behavior or a different function behind the same behavior. That makes it more difficult. Further, the process of analysis often requires further reinforcement of maladaptive behaviors. So FAs are designed to evoke problem behavior, but it is unclear whether the increase in responding observed in one or more conditions poses a risk greater than the observed outside of the assessment sessions. And this can be particularly dangerous in the case of violent behaviors such as self-injurious behaviors, physical aggression, or property destruction. Reinforcing problem behaviors.
Guys, is she breaking up on your end or?
Is that on everybody?
I think we're breaking up. Was it just me or was it everyone?
No, was it everybody? No, okay.
Was she breaking up on your end? No? Okay, I'm sorry. It must have been just mine. I'm sorry. I just wasn't sure if it was going to be on the recording where it's like,
Yeah, I usually have really bad internet service out here. I live in the boondocks.
It's also like super windy here. Like the winds are like 40 miles an hour. So like street signs down and stuff. So yeah, they even canceled school here today. But okay, so it just might be my connection from the wind and stuff. Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Also, my food just got here, so
you can go grab it. That's fine. Okay. But yeah, so reinforcing problem behaviors can also create new challenges for classrooms. For example, if you reinforce a self-injurious behavior whose function is for attention with attention, then that may temporarily increase the occurrence of the behavior in the future when it's attention seeking, because they have previously been reinforced for that behavior during the experimental functional analysis. So by conducting or collecting data within non-naturalistic environments with intentional increases in life-threatening maladaptive behaviors are a huge disadvantage of experimental functional analysis. That's all I got.
Okay, so for the disadvantages of the functional behavior assessments, the disadvantages can be grouped into disadvantages for the indirect assessments and the disadvantages for the direct assessments. And beginning with the indirect assessments, as far as interviews go for indirect assessments, one of the major limitations on those is the potential for the interviews to be hampered by the client's limitations in communication or the bias of the parents. So for interview purposes, when you're conducting an interview with the client or with the parent, it is heavily dependent on the response that they give, and so it can often have really skewed results that would not present very helpful information to the analyst in terms of the function and able to determine an effective treatment. So they're very limited in their ability to provide meaningful information. So the use of the indirect assessment of interviews can honestly just be a waste of time. Indirect assessment in the form of scales and questionnaires are too standardized and have a tendency to overlook behaviors. Much of what we've learned about behavior analysis is that behaviors are very individualized. They differ very much by person. So a standardized form such as a scale or questionnaire would not give the ability to recognize the individuality of the behavior, and it would be impossible for them to be comprehensive of all of the forms that the behavior could take, or the multiplicity of the behaviors presented, and have a tendency to overgeneralize the behaviors and not provide very much quantitative information about them. As far as direct assessments, most forms of direct assessment do not show causation. So they may give a correlation between a behavior and a consequence, but are not sufficient information to determine reliably if that consequence or antecedent is the primary function of the behavior. So for that purpose, functional analysis is considered the only reliable method of determining functional causation, as stated by Wenzel. Furthermore, some methods of both direct and indirect assessment have shown inconsistent results. Lewis and colleagues have claimed that FBAs have internal validity, but in multiple cases, FBAs failed to identify all motivations of behavior that were later discovered by functional analysis. So too many variables in the natural environment that affect the client's behavior were not appropriately accounted for in the functional behavior assessment, and therefore the information was lacking, which could lead to financial and time wasting due to inaccuracy of treatment. Also, as we stated with functional analysis, providing for the manipulation of behavior, it also implies that the indirect and direct methods of functional assessment do not allow for the manipulation of those variables. And so it simply involves recording of what is seen or noticed in the interaction. So therefore, once again, it does not provide that causation relationship. It simply gives a correlation, which in many cases is not sufficient for providing the amount of information necessary to develop an effective treatment. That's all I got.
Thank you. So for the conclusion for functional behavior assessments, it has been shown that direct assessment procedures do have a very accurate correlation. Yes, they do not show causation, but the correlation, as shown in the ABC assessment from a study completed by Alter and colleagues in 2008, the ABC assessment reliably showed correlation, and it coincided with the results of the functional analysis as well. If the two types of assessments produce identical or very similar results, then it would be wise, for the sake of time and resources, to employ functional behavior assessments in the form of direct measures in schools. Currently, FBA is already being used in the schools, but the focus is majorly on indirect measures. I believe that with a shift to more direct methods, teachers may notice a difference in the effectiveness of the resulting behavior interventions without having to take the next step and employ experimental functional analysis. Sorry, I see you're eating.
That was really good. That was really good. I don't even know what to say to that. I'm on board with you. I'm like, oh, you're right, actually. Okay, Cara, do you want to finish up, or should I? She's gone somewhere, so we're gonna. Oh no, there you are. I was gonna say, so she's gone. I'm just gonna quickly finish because.
No, I just kind of hid. I was like, no, I'm done.
I like how you were all like, guys, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. And then you were just like so perfect. Like, okay, Cara.
Thanks.
Okay. Like you sounded like a professor, just like, I don't know. It's so weird. I'm so jealous. But anyways, so we can end it up by saying on our end, actually I think I wrote something. Yeah, so how we prefer experimental function analysis, because in the end, it's all about control, and we can systematically control the environment to see exactly what's causing it, versus leaving it up to an FBA where there are confounding variables or potential confounding variables that can affect the behavior. And as we stated, there could be more than one variable that may affect the behavior. And also, just because where was I going? Somewhere. Just because I was writing down points and then I started eating. You mentioned in school that direct assessments would be better. What? Oh my gosh. I'm gonna get my point together next time, but I had a good one where I was like, oh wait. But yeah, we just believe that controlling the environment and having that sort of control is better to determine the function of the behavior. That's going to sound a lot more philosophical, like the next time, I swear.
I feel you, girl. I felt the same way going into it. I was like, I probably should have written up, like, points that I was actually going to make versus trying to make outline. But we got it next time. We're gonna
I'm actually gonna write down like what I want to say, and I'm gonna have like, oh, like Cara, like how Cara was like, according to this, such and such. So I'm gonna like have all that ready to go and everything. Kristen did really well too, I think. I feel like it's just like you two were on.
They had quotes.
Not to keep you out, Harley.
References.
I was reading from the thing.
But it's all smooth though. It was just really smooth. Like even if you were reading Cara, it was just like so smooth. I'm like ready to take notes like myself. Yeah, so I think I'm just gonna write down what I would like to say for my parts, and now that we know our parts and we know the function of them a lot better than like, just reading it on the outline, like, you know, like, oh, it's your turn, like, you know, like we know what we're supposed to say and everything like that. And I think it's just a matter of us perfecting it. I was thinking while we were talking, because did we confirm whether it was 30 minutes or so?
It is 30 to 45 minutes. I looked it up shortly after I said that.
So like what I'm gonna time myself at 7 minutes. I feel like 7 times the 4 of us would be 28, right? And then like a couple of minutes for the moderator, and then our closing will kind of push us over. So when I'm writing what I want to say, I'm gonna keep timing myself and make sure that I'm getting up to 7. So that's my, like, if you guys want to do that, or just something else.
It feels like a really long time to make these brief points.
It does. That's why I was like, I need to pull out research, like start quoting stuff, and you know, A, it's gonna make me look smarter, and B, is just really gonna help with the length. So yeah, I don't know how I'm gonna talk for 7 minutes. I'm gonna have to figure it out.
So for the outline, I'm going to be going off the outline to keep track of like where everyone else is on their stuff. Doesn't matter to me if you guys use the outline to talk from, but just a general idea of what you're saying, so I can keep track of, you know, how to most accurately attack it.
Okay.
And so let me make sure I've got this straight. So first, Kristen is stating and proving the advantages of FBA. And then it's getting attacked. I'm attacking it right after?
No.
Are we still doing advantage, disadvantage, disadvantage?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because I thought we were messing with that. So we're still doing advantage, disadvantage. It's just Kristen's doing all of the advantage, and Latania's doing all of the advantage, and then me and Harley are both doing the disadvantage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think I got it.
Crap, I keep losing my points. Carl, you mentioned you want us to, like, I'm personally going to go off the outline. I am. I just may add a little more, but I think during our next run through, once we have pretty much a good gist of what we're going to say and everything like that, you can then determine from there, like, any points that you want to make, like during our second run through, you know what I mean? Because you're like, oh, I'm not sure what I want to attack because I don't know what you're going to say. But next time we're just going to say what we're going to say, maybe, and then we can kind of alter things a little bit to see, like, you guys' point from attacking. Because Kristen and I can, like, it's easy to just list advantages, but of course you guys, your argument depends on what we say as our advantages. You know what I mean? So I'm just gonna, like, I'm gonna get mine really good, and I think from the next time you can, at least Harley, you can break me down. Yeah,
I think that'll be good because I can go ahead and start, like, putting stuff into here, and then when I listen to what you say, then I can just add those few extra points that you put in. Versus.
Did we answer his questions?
We did.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that they were pretty general questions.
Yeah, they were easy. So we answered the pros and cons and barriers to conducting FAs.
Yeah,
we answered both of them.
Give some of our own, but I really can't think of any other questions.
No.
I'll think on it.
Yeah.
Just sleep on it. Okay. So when do we want to? I don't know what my timeline is looking like. I'm sorry.
Yep. Same question. That's why I was like, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know what to do. Like, when is this? I don't know what to do. Like, do we have time to do another?
Like, as soon as they start handing out weeks, I want it to be like, okay, let's go for it. Let's do it first. We're done.
Yeah, I agree. When do you guys want to do another run through before Friday, or is next Friday okay? Oh, it's quiet.
Well, next week is spring break, so none of us
So
will
we're
have
chilling.
Yeah, well, we won't have any schoolwork, so I mean, it's whatever you guys want to do. I mean, I'll still have work, but other than that, I won't have other schoolwork, so I'll be a little more available. So I put it in there to give some visual examples of like the scales and questionnaires. I put that under the FBA stuff. I think I had a couple that I was kind of looking at maybe including, and then therefore like citation and reference for it. But I was going to solidify that this week. And if anyone else has already come across one that, you know, like included in an article that they like, that'd be cool too. I was also going to say, Christian, I really liked your PowerPoint. The visuals were really nice. They just kind of popped. And it was very concise. I like that a lot. Let's see. The only thing I was thinking about with the PowerPoint is the background. I think the instructor's PowerPoints that he's provided to us have all been white background. I don't know if he had a preference for like that. Because personally, I don't like the white background just because it's very flat. But I don't know what the instructor feels about like subtle color on the background or whatever.
Are we adding additional stuff to it?
Like
additional slides or?
Yeah, I was probably going to include the visuals of like the questionnaires and the scales on there. And then possibly also put like our reference list at the end of it. Just, you know, to visually provide the reference list in case there's some crazy person out there that wants to go look them up, and just kind of for the sake of clarity of, yes, we are formally citing these as we are verbally saying them.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought.
Okay. Whenever you or anybody determines which scale example we want to include visually, will you let me know so I can make sure to say that?
Okay.
Yeah, if I find some, I will either put it in the PowerPoint myself and resend you the PowerPoint, or just like attach it in an email or whatever.
Okay. Where's the PowerPoint?
I sent it through email and I also attached it on the group stuff. It's just, I don't remember what it's called, but I think it's just visual aids for the pros and cons. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. I need to check my Gmail. I never check the Gmail.
I didn't do it to your Gmail though. I did it from the school email.
From the school email? Okay.
Yeah, the link is visual aids for debate 619.
Okay. Let me search for it.
It is a email from February 23rd.
Ah, right. When I was having my issues that day. Like I could not get my life together today. I passed out.
Do any of you guys work for any organizations that might have an example of one of these assessments that you could just like, or?
Yes. We actually just recently conducted some kind of functional analysis. Don't let me lie to you guys. But I can talk to them and see if they'll let me like access all the data and stuff from it and charts and everything and just change names. I'm sure they don't mind.
I don't have anything. My BCBA does like direct observation and stuff like that.
Yeah. I have two different types of ABC forms. One is just the, like you just write it all out, and then one is the one that has the pre-filled in. I think that might be something cool to mention also, because the pre-filled ones don't allow for as much individualization, but they will allow for the teachers to kind of recognize what the possible antecedents could be, because sometimes it's kind of fuzzy to people. They're like, I don't know, we were just sitting in the room or something like that. And they're like, actually, no attention was given, or the client was told no, that they can't have something. And those are the different things that are listed on the form. So
Maybe I wasn't listening. What do we need from, what were you asking about if someone had conducted like one of these?
I was originally just asking if anybody had one of the indirect, like access to an indirect assessment, like one of the scales or questionnaires or something that you would give to a parent so that we can, have a copy to scan on here, like not necessarily filled out, but just a blank one so that people will be able to look at it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure I can get one. I can do that.
Okay. I don't have anything like that at my that I have access to. I can access my BCBA as well.
I was gonna say I can do that, and like half the people I work with have gone through this program. So I'm sure someone has it on their computer file somewhere, something related that I can get my hands on. So I can have that before. Would you just like it? I can probably have it early next week if that's fine.
Either way, it's fine. As long as we have it by the time the debates do, I don't care.
Okay. Sounds good then.
All right, guys. So is that it?
So we're meeting next Friday.
Oh, right. Yeah, we need to figure that out. How do you guys feel? It's like next week is totally just chill. I'm okay with just meeting for a little bit just to, but also I'm also okay just chilling. Not gonna lie, I wouldn't mind a Friday night off again. So
we're getting my dog fixed next Friday, so I'm gonna have him inside the entire time. I'm not sure how much we'll be able to get done.
We can skip it and just message, and if we feel like there's something super important that we need to talk about, if we need to hop on here, we can, but I'm not pressed to be on here.
Okay.
Okay, Cara?
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. I think she gave a thumbs up.
Hey, send us the link so that we can watch ourselves. Because it's
okay.
YouTube link, right?
Yeah. We're actually still recording it, so y'all gonna have all this.
I know I did horrible. I do not want to see myself. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'll send it to you guys. Do you just want it to?
If you can post it in the Hangout chat thing.
Oh. Yeah. I'll do that then.
Okay. Cool.
All right, y'all.
All right.
I'll talk to you guys later.
All right. Bye.
I'm so sorry for eating, but yeah. Bye.
Bye.